Mark, good evening, brother. Listen, I'm glad to meet you. I am glad to meet you. I just want to say why I'm excited, because we know we've had lots of date setting happening in the last, since 2017. YouTube has escalated, hasn't it? And I've been as keen as everybody else. I want to go home, you know. I want to go home. But what came to me lately in my open vision is what I call it, and I'll explain it again for those who've heard it. I was a choir of the Lord, going through a difficult time, a social media difficult time, and people know what I'm talking about who know me. And it was a very difficult time, and we were going over a doctrine that was about, at the time, and still is, but I had to know from the Lord, was that true? And I was here till 3 o'clock in the morning, near in tears, wanting to know. So I inquired of him that night, okay? And he answered it. He didn't give me the answer. You know how the Lord works. He gave me books to read, okay, on the shelf, books to read. And he answered it in full for me. I did the homework. And then the next question was, cheekily, can you tell me when you're coming for the bride? I think that's the exact words. It was them words. I've got that written so I can't misinterpret it. And on my way to school, a lot of people know this now, on my way to school, my son's school, running my son to school, the words Rosh Hashanah kept going. I'd inquired the night before, and then the next day, Rosh Hashanah, Rosh Hashanah. I'd always referred it to trumpets. So Rosh Hashanah was not a word I was familiar with, for want of a better explanation. But there it was, banging away, 7 minutes there, to almost singing it, 7 minutes back. And to rushing in the house and writing it down, and then coming up to study exactly what that feast was. So I had Rosh Hashanah. Now the thing is, that was before 2020 Rosh Hashanah. It was about June last year. Okay, so, and that came and went. And I did ask him the next day for the day and the hour, and I didn't get it. Guys, don't slaughter me. I didn't get it. Okay. I do not know the day nor the hour. That's a fact as I stand here today. But I cannot dismiss Rosh Hashanah. That's and right. Then all of a sudden, things started coming together. That's why I'm with Mark tonight. Brenda Waltner put out a video, which made a lot of sense. Tim Henderson had a dream and a vision, which we can check, because one first part is on the 4th of July, so we can take it or leave it. And then I was watching Paul Begley, and our Mark was on it, and it's blown me away. And I'm just going to hand over to Mark for the next period of time until he's burnt me out. I've got notes, Mark, but I just want to say, I've met Mark before on Sid Roth's show, because I bought one of his books. That was about a year ago, I think, Mark. Wasn't it? About a year.
Yeah.
That was about it. So I know of Mark, but I never tied it to this. Mark, please explain the moons. Please explain Rosh Hashanah to me. I'm going to hand it to you, brother.
Well, let me just say one thing that's fascinating. Rosh Hashanah is a feast that is known as the feast where no one knows the day or the hour.
Yes. Yes.
Because no one knows when it was going to begin. It was cited, the new moon, and had to have 2 witnesses. And see, most of the other feasts are in the middle of the month. Passover on the 14th, 15th, Tabernacles 14th, 15th. Well, it's easy to know when the 14th is when you know when the 1st is. All right. It's 2 weeks later.
Yes.
But this being on the 1st, no one knew when it was going to begin, because that had to be determined.
Yes.
Plus, it took 2 days. They would light fires on the mountaintops, so those in the diaspora or in Babylon, they're not going to know till they wake up and the day's half over. And so this is why they keep it for 2 days. And so it's a 2-day feast where no one knows the day or the hour it was going to begin. Plus, how can anyone know the day or the hour when at any one moment in time there's 2 days going on in 24 hours?
Exactly.
What are you going to go by? And then when you say no one knows the day or the hour, Does that refer to when the Antichrist is revealed? Does that refer to when the tribulation begins? Does that refer to the catching away? I mean, there's a lot of events. So when you say, are you using that as a catch-all?
That's right.
You can't do that.
No.
But aside from that, where I always like to begin is in Genesis, because God said he declared the end from the beginning. So you can't know the end if you don't know the beginning.
No.
And the real problem is our English language, because whenever you know any other language, you lose things culturally. For example, in Genesis 1:14, when God creates the sun and the moon, guess what? The number one reason it says is for signs.
That's right.
That's for signals. Right. Well, that's referring to eclipses. And the reason why God uses them, they speak in every language. It doesn't matter what language you speak. It resonates.
Yes.
Okay. And then when it says for seasons, days, and years, the Hebrew word for season. Now, Pete, when you hear the word season, what do you think of?
Spring, summer, winter.
Fall. Right. Yeah. Now, when you think of a feast, what do you think of? Food.
Yes.
Well, guess what? The Hebrew word they translated as seasons in Genesis 1, the same word they translated as feast in Leviticus 23. So which is it? Is it winter or, is it a turkey dinner? Okay. I mean, this is the problem with English. It literally doesn't mean either one. Basically, what the word really means is a divine appointment. In other words, this is when God is going to intersect human history. And so they were called not only for signs and seasons, they were also for days and years. Well, when it says days and years, it's not talking about Saturday. It's not talking about 2021. It's talking about Passover, Tabernacles, the Shemitah year, the Jubilee year. Okay, we go by the Gregorian pagan calendar that's based totally on the sun, but God said Israel had to go by both the sun and the moon, one to determine the years, and one when winter, spring, summer, fall is for the moon. And so it's very important. In Leviticus 23 is where they are called the feasts of the Lord. And not only were they called feasts or celebrations, it says that they were to be dress rehearsals, basically, holy convocations. But in Hebrew, the word for convocation, mikra, implies it's a dress rehearsal for like a wedding. If you're going to be involved in a wedding, they often have a dress rehearsal. So what the feasts were, like Passover, it had to be done on the 14th of Nisan at evening, okay, between the evenings. Why did God do that? Because every year for 1,500 years, they went through the dress rehearsal of killing the Passover lamb at 3 p.m. Why? So that 1,500 years later, they have been rehearsing it, and now the reality takes place. Right. I mean, this was so important to God. If anyone who lost a child knows how horrible it is for a parent to lose a child. Well, here the father is about to lose his only begotten son. And so in Revelation, you're familiar with the verse where it talks about the lamb that was slain from the foundation of the world. That means it was all pre-planned. God had already planned. God says, I'm going to determine what day my son is going to die. I'm going to determine what time he's going to die, where he's going to die. And not only that, I'm going to determine what songs will be sung at his funeral. Yeah. This is why he had King David 1,000 years before write the funeral hymn that was going to be sung when Messiah was on the cross. Yeah. I mean, this is incredible. And so here, King David, the song, do you remember in the Gospels where at the Last Supper, it says they sang a hymn and went over to the Mount of Olives? Do you know the words to the song?
No.
Yes, you do. It's Psalms 118. Psalms 118 is the last hymn they sung at every Passover for the last 3,000 years.
I've got to make notes, brother. Hang on. Carry on.
Okay, so or 1500, let me see. We know about 3,000 years. King David wrote Psalms 118.
Yeah.
And so what song are they singing? At the Last Supper, right before he was betrayed, he sang song. They were singing 118. That was the last hymn. Right before he was betrayed and rejected, what are the words of Psalm 118? This is the stone the builders have rejected. It's now become the headstone of the corner. This is what they sang before he was betrayed. Now, they sing Psalms 113 through Psalms 118. That was their hymn book. That was their hymn book.
Right.
And so every feast day, Passover, Sukkot, they always sing what's called the Hallel, but we get Hallelujah from, which is Psalm 113 through Psalm 118. And so what happens here if you go to the Gospel of Mark, it says Yeshua was bound to the cross the third hour of the day. Mm-hmm. That's 9 in the morning. Mm-hmm. Okay? 9 in the morning is the time of the morning sacrifice. At the very moment they're binding Yeshua to the cross, they're binding the Passover lamb to the horns of the altar. They're going to slay at 3. Yeah. And they're singing Psalm 118, which finishes with, what does Yeshua hear everyone singing while they're binding him to the cross? He's hearing them sing Psalm 118, which concludes with, bind the sacrifice with cords, even to the horns of the altar. That's what they're singing while they're binding him to the cross.
Amazing.
Do you remember the Lord said, if I be lifted up, I'll draw all men unto me? Mm. Remember that? Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, they sing the Hallel, Psalm 113 through Psalm 118. Oh, I thought I had turned that off. At 9 at the time of the morning sacrifice, at noon, and then at 3 at the time of the evening sacrifice. So when the Messiah, it's now noon. The lights go out. It's pitch black. You can't see anything. Everyone's kind of trembling as they're singing because all of a sudden the lights go out, but they have the song memorized. Mm. What does Yeshua hear everyone singing while he is up on the cross? Psalm 118. Mm. And it says, the right hand of the Lord is being lifted up. The right hand of the Lord is being exalted.
Wow.
That's what's going on. And then at 3 in the afternoon, it says that he died the 9th hour, which is 3 in the afternoon, which is the very moment they slay the Passover lamb for the nation. So here they slay the Passover lamb for the nation, and the Passover lamb on the cross says, now it is finished, when he passes away. Mm-hmm. So all of this was a dress rehearsal that they had been going through. Wow. And so that's why Passover is to be kept on Passover. The problem with much of Christianity, we're on the solar calendar. We'll celebrate the resurrection a month before he dies. Oh. It's just crazy. We're on the wrong calendar. Yeah. But so here, Messiah, as remember, the feasts were dress rehearsals. That's why he died on Passover. He was buried on unleavened bread. He rose on the Feast of First Fruits that's mentioned in Leviticus 23 as the first fruits of the resurrection. Mm-hmm. Okay, then after what's called the counting of the Omer, this is where Christians come up with Pentecost. They don't know the Jews were the first Pentecostals. The Jews have been keeping Pentecost for 1,500 years before the book of Acts. And to this day, the Jews still keep Pentecost, and most Pentecostals don't even know when it is. So this whole concept, and if you remember, what did Peter say on the Feast of Shavuot, or weeks? He said, these guys aren't drunk. It's the third hour of the day. That's 9 in the morning, time of the morning sacrifice. So that's why it says in Acts, there were Jews from every nation there. They had to be there. In Deuteronomy 16:16, it says all of Israel 3 times a year had to be in Jerusalem, Passover, Pentecost, and Tabernacles. And so now here's the thing, Pete, do you believe the Lord is the same yesterday, today, and forever?
Yes.
Okay. If he fulfilled the spring feast to the day of his first coming, he'll fulfill the fall feast to the day of his second coming. Mm. And the next feast to be fulfilled is Rosh Hashanah. He's going to fulfill them in order. Rosh Hashanah has to be fulfilled, which is known as the Feast of Trumpets. You ever heard of trumpets in the book of Revelation? Hello. And then the Feast of Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur service, if you understand it, is all over the book of Revelation. Everyone wears white at every synagogue. Everyone comes in white. And so, and the Ark of the Covenant is seen in Revelation. That's only seen on Yom Kippur. Okay. And then the last feast, the Feast of Tabernacles, God tabernacles with man again for the 1,000-year reign. And so once you understand the culture and the language, everything in Revelation opens up and you have a whole new understanding. But the next feast to be fulfilled is the Feast of Rosh Hashanah. On Rosh Hashanah.
Yes. Now, you explained in great detail how the Israelites march out in order, Benjamin first, and you've sort of put all that together. I take it there's not a book on that yet, Mark? No?
Well, I'm going to be speaking to about, 4,000 people here this weekend at a conference in Tennessee. And one of the things I'll be talking about is how they journeyed, because it is mind-blowing how that also was tied to the second coming of the Messiah.
Right. That would be, I watched that, and that, what I've grabbed of that so far is amazing. Is absolutely amazing.
Well, there's so much more. This may go over some people's heads, but if they go to our website, I'm going to be teaching on this, and we'll have it on our website. But the way they journeyed, they always, if you see Moses' tabernacle, they camped, the east side would go first. And they had to be organized. I mean, you got a couple million people packing up their bags and tents and leaving. They had to have their marching orders. And so then the south side would go, and then the western side, and then the north would be the ones to wrap up their journeys as they go. Well, what is so fascinating is Judah led the east. So actually, Judah would go first. Right. Okay, and then you'd have Issachar and Zebulun. They were the other two tribes on the east. Well, that's Leah's kids. So if you think in terms of mother, you have four mothers. You've got Rachel, and Rachel's kids were on the west. Leah's had 6 kids, so hers were on the east and the south. And then on one of the south and the north were the handmaids, Bilhah and Zilpah, their kids. Well, what's fascinating, I'm sure you're familiar with the book of Ezekiel, where the 2 sticks come together, Judah and Ephraim. Okay? Well, here's what's amazing. These lunar solar eclipses that are coming in the middle of the next Shemitah cycle, which reminds me of something else. Now, you're familiar with Daniel's 70 weeks. And there's 1 week left, right?
Yes.
Of 7 years, not 14. 7 years.
Yes.
Okay. There's 1 week left of 7 years. But guess what? Daniel was Jewish, right? Of course he was Jewish.
Yeah.
When he's writing, the whole reason they went into Babylon for 70 years was because they did not keep the 7th year of the 7-year Shemitah cycle. Okay?
Yeah.
Well, that 1 week that is left is a Shemitah week. Therefore, the tribulation cannot start any day or any year. The first year of the tribulation has to begin the first year of a Shemitah cycle.
Yes.
So where are we now? This Rosh Hashanah begins the 7th year of a Shemitah cycle. And the way you know that, and some people argue with me that I'm off a year, just look at the math. If the Hebrew year is divisible by 7, it's a 7th year. This isn't difficult. It's not rocket science. Okay. So we're in the 7th year starting this Rosh Hashanah, which means next Rosh Hashanah begins the 7-year new cycle.
Wow.
And what this means is if the tribulation, now I'm not saying the date of the Lord's return, I'm telling you the tribulation has to begin because Daniel 70 weeks, he's Jewish, this is a Shemitah week, the first year of a Shemitah cycle. So Rosh Hashanah of 2022 begins the first year of the next Shemitah cycle. If the tribulation does not start next year, it cannot start until 2029 or 2036.
Oh, we can't wait that long.
Are you following me?
Yes, completely. Yeah, we can't wait that long, brother. We've got to get this. Got to be.
Well, that's why I really believe we are so close.
Yeah.
And that's why I put parameters. I've in my coming up conference I'll be speaking at. Every single one of us are born with a broken compass. We don't know directions. It's not in man to direct his steps.
Yeah.
We're born broken.
Yeah.
We need the Bible. We need the Lord to find our direction in life. Agreed?
Agreed. Yeah.
The other thing where we inherit is a broken watch. We don't know what time it is.
No. I could agree with that.
So God has given us divine hidden secrets so we can know what time it is. Okay?
Okay.
Now, I don't have time to go into all of this, but I kind of go through the calendars and my topic of where we're at, where we got our calendars from and all this kind of thing, both the biblical calendar as well as the Gregorian calendar. But here's what we do know. There are some north stars. You know, if you're out on the ocean and your compass is broke, you need a navigational fix. Where do you look?
Stars.
The North Star.
Yeah.
The stars.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you have a broken watch and you don't know what time it is, where do you look? Look at the sun and the moon. Is it daylight or dark? Is the sun setting or not? God has trained us.
They had no watch or compass, did they?
And so here's the thing. If we want to know where we're at, we got to look to the heavens, the sun, the moon, and the stars. That's what God created them for.
Yes.
So, hello. Okay, so with that said, if you go to Luke, it talks about how Yeshua was born in the 15th year of Tiberius Caesar.
Yeah.
Okay. You can look historically. It was 14 AD when he was the 15th year. Okay. Well, guess what? A day with the Lord is as 1,000 years, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So if he began his reign as 14 AD, his 15th year would be 29 AD. 14 plus 15 is 29.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, what we do know about 29 AD, that is about when Yeshua starts his ministry. Okay, also.
Yeah.
Well, what's amazing, you add 2,000 years, that takes you to 2029.
Yeah.
Now, when did Yeshua die? He died about, 30 AD is when he died. Okay, well, guess what? If you go to Hosea, chapter 5 and 6, it talks about his death. It prophesies. I don't know if you've ever seen this verse, but it talks about, I will tear Ephraim and Judah. I will go and return to my place. After 2 days, I will revive them. And the third day, I will live in their sight. Okay?
Yeah.
That refers to the millennial reign. A day with the Lord is 1,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
Well, again, he died in 30 AD. You add 2 days or 2,000 years, that's 2030 AD. Again, 29, 2030, both based upon his birth and his death, all point to that would be the culmination. You subtract 7 years, that puts you at 2022, which is Rosh Hashanah of next year as well.
Maybe he was just saying, look, Rosh Hashanah. Okay, that's enough for now.
Yeah. Well, when you understand the Feast of Rosh Hashanah, for example, in Thessalonians 4, 16 and 17, it talks about how the Lord himself will descend from heaven with a shout.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guess what? The Hebrew word for shout is teruah. And the Hebrew word is Yom Teruah. That's the name of the feast, Rosh Hashanah in Hebrew. It's known as Yom Teruah, or the day of the shout.
Right.
That's where it's known at. And what do they do? And it goes on and it says, with the trump of God, or the shofar. Well, that's the feast. That's what Rosh Hashanah is, the blowing of the shofar.
You couldn't.
And when Paul says at the last trump, every year they blow the shofar 100 times. And the last blast is known as the last trump. And that's what he mentions at the last trump. I mean, everything points to Rosh Hashanah as far as when the tribulation will begin. Now, what year of the 7-year tribulation I believe the resurrection of the dead will take place on Rosh Hashanah without a doubt. I don't know which year, but I do know that it'll happen on Rosh Hashanah.
Yeah. Well, that was given to me. But again, he didn't say which one, you know?
Right. Right. But we need to be awake and alert. That's the important thing. We need to be aware and get on God's calendar.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably the biggest part of what I do. This is what the channel's really about. Not getting into hype, not into getting sensationalism, but keeping lamps lit, keeping people aware. You know, we've got a fantastic team on the server, Discord server. And we'll not leave without getting your website, because I haven't been to your website yet. I will be after this. But, you know, the team is, as I say, 14 ministries, which churches should be having ministries. We should be doing the Lord's work. So my channel is sometimes not popular because I simply want to do what the Lord wants us to do, isn't it? You know. But at the same time, I, like everybody, I want to go. I want to go home. I don't want to die. I want to get there and say, how did you get here? I raptured. Okay. I want to be in that number. Okay. But, you know, putting it together, as I say to everybody, do subscribe to El Shaddai Ministries channel. Just look for Mark Biltz. You'll get him on YouTube. And I'll be keeping you updated on Mark's. I'll sneak your videos, brother, and keep people updated on what Mark is up to, because this is interesting. We do not know the day nor the hour. Is that right, brother? We do not know the day nor the hour.
I don't think we could, because there's 2 different days and 24 hours on any one day anyway.
And we don't even sure whether it's this Rosh Hashanah. It certainly wasn't last one. And I've got to say that because it came before last year's Rosh Hashanah, you know, and it was clear. I cannot put that away now. I cannot put an obvious vision like that away. I've had maybe one clearer one in my life, but that was the second best. And I've got to run with that regardless of what anybody says. And I hope it isn't 2029.
Yeah.
Mark, it's an absolute pleasure. We'll have to do this again sometime, brother, when you've got a chance.
Hey, thank you.
And keep in touch. It's El Shaddai Ministries on YouTube. Please subscribe to his channel. Your videos will be posted in the server, brother, as well. And what's your website?
ESM.us.
ESM.us. Okay, I'll put that in the description. Mark's channel will be in the description. And brothers and sisters, I'm just going to leave you. Thank you, Mark, for putting up with me. And it's just, I'll just keep your lamps lit, guys. Keep doing the work. You know, don't be sitting waiting for him to come. Don't be in the corner picking flowers when you should be in the field bringing in the harvest. Okay, so I'm going to leave you with, may God bless you, keep you, make his face to shine upon you, and be gracious to you. And God bless Mark and his ministry. God bless.
Thank you. Bye.